May 27th, 2020, regular City Council meeting. It's at 6 o'clock, and we're here in City Council Chambers, 345 High Street in the City of Hamilton. We have 3 public hearings later on in the agenda. One has to do with business and industrial district zoning. The second one's got to do with design standards. The third one has to do with medical clinics, inpatient rehab facilities, and supportive housing. Let's do a roll call, please, if we could.
Pullman.
Present.
Fear.
Present.
Vaughn.
Present.
Ryan.
Here.
Nab.
Present.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Present. We're going to start off with offering a prayer by Councilmember Carla Fear, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you are able.
Lord God, we entrust to you people affected by the coronavirus, the countries, the families, and the communities. We pray that you guide and protect the healthcare workers and the many leaders of all the nations. We pray your spirit inspire those doing research for medicines and the healthcare system that respond to those suffering. We trust in your infinite mercy as we wait for your healing presence among us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our council agenda, special presentations. And our first one that we've been having each and every council meeting for a couple of months here is the coronavirus COVID-19 presentation update by Health Commissioner Kay Farrar. Kay?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, citizens of Hamilton. I wanted to come and bring a little bit of an update from last week on our numbers. So the total number of cases for the City of Hamilton currently are at 156. The county as a whole, which includes the 156 from the city, are 847. The age ranges of positive cases range from 7 months to 101 years old. We happen to have both ends of the spectrum. Those are city employee or city citizens, the 7-month-old and the 101-year-old. As far as deaths, City of Hamilton has 2. The county as a whole has 26. So the case count increases from last week. We had 21 additional city and 175 additional county. That actually is a little bit down from last week, so good news considering we're opening up, and those are numbers that we're watching very closely and know that there's more testing out there. So these are some of the statistics that I pulled from the county report. Again, this will be a week old because the epidemiologist for the county runs his report on Wednesdays. And he can't get it to me soon enough to present for this. So based on the case count of 689, which we're now at 857, so this is going to be off by about 168 new this week, but there were 107 hospitalizations. That is in total since the start of coronavirus, and it's running about 15%. We want to stay below that 18% range, so we're definitely in that range. The numbers admitted to the ICU for the county, there are 17, which is 2.5%. We're trying to stay below the 4%, so we're on that target. Those requiring intubation, there were 14 or 2%. Again, we're trying to stay below 4% total on those. Clustered cases. So of the 689 at that time, 238 of them were considered clustered, or we were able to find a connection. So they are either cases that sit within a long-term care facility, associated with other people that are positive at a manufacturing facility or an office space. So they share a commonality to them. So 34% of our cases, 34.5% of them are associated with clusters. As far as the breakdown by race, non-Hispanic whites make up 35% of them. Unknown or refused to answer the question, 22.8%. Hispanics, we have 20.3%. Non-Hispanic blacks, 10.4%, Asians 6.7%, and other 4.6%. So of those, if you're looking at the county demographics, the one that's disproportionately large is the Hispanic population. Our current county-wide Hispanic population sits more around 11%, so that's disproportionately large, but that has to do with if there's a lot of associated cases that are in those clusters. This is the state of Ohio. This is current as of today. So the number of cases are 33,439. There, in the last 24 hours, there was a gain of 433. We're trying again on that 21-day trend to stay below that dotted line, which we are nicely below. As far as deaths, there are 2,044 since the start of this. There were a change of 42 in the last 24 hours. Our 21-day average is 39, and again, we're below the dotted line. For hospitalizations, these are total hospitalizations since the start of it. These aren't how many are in the hospital right this minute, but 5,700. And in the last 24 hours, the change was 121, and the 21-day reported average was 78 hospitalizations. ICU admissions, again, those are like trickling up a little bit. Those are two that we're watching at, the hospitalizations and the ICUs. For the key metrics, again, those are some of the numbers that I talked about. So with the total cases at 33,439, the number of deaths associated with those are at 6%. We've been staying very steady for the state of Ohio. We've been at 6% now for about a week or a month and a half. So that is a good number. Confirmed deaths were at 6% as well. That's been staying very stable. The number of hospitalizations are below 18%. That's been staying right around 16 to 17 to 18. The city was well below the hospitalizations as compared to the rest of the state of Ohio, which is good. And our ICU admissions for the state are at 4%, so we're well below that too. We were at 2%. So we're looking overall pretty good. Don't want to get cocky about it, but I think the city is doing really well. Just a reminder about masks and barriers. I hear a lot of talk about masks and a lot of disgruntled people about masks. The masks are just another barrier. So if you think about a mask, the important thing about a mask is that it keeps your breath, not just your cough or sneeze. A lot of people think you're wearing a mask just in case you cough or sneeze. But even when we're talking, we're expelling air out of us, and this is an airborne illness. So the mask is preventing other people. In case today I was walking around and I was positive and didn't know it, the symptoms usually start on a certain marker and they progress very fast, but you're probably shedding the virus at least 24 hours, possibly 48 hours before that. So the mask is really, really critical for people to wear. The mask isn't a substitution for social distancing. It's really an and situation. We want to go to the lowest level of risk that we can. So the mask should be worn anytime you're in a social distancing situation where you can't assure that you're going to stay 6 feet from someone. So you guys are all plot there. You're not kids. You're not jumping around and have the potential to be closer to each other, so you're fine. But if you're in a social situation where you're outside maybe and there's a lot of movement and you may have to move to the side or whatever, those are times you want to put the mask on. Who should not wear a face covering? Children under 2 are not recommended to have facial coverings on. People who are a certain group of the population that have trouble breathing, obviously if you're unconscious and incapacitated, you don't want a mask on your face. They're not to be surgical masks. They're not to be N95s. We're still reserving those for workers, our EMS, our fire, the police officers that are going into unknown situations, and especially if they know there's a COVID case that is staying at that residence. A lot of people have asked about kids. The facial mask for kids, it's really hard to get a good fit. But one of the tricks, if you've got a girl, if you put a ponytail on, they actually do better in an adult mask, taking the ears and putting them around the ponytail on either side. So that's just a trick for girls. Guys, I'm not quite sure. I don't have a good suggestion unless you have a guy that has the ability to put a ponytail on. With our no barbers, that might be, I don't know. You want your face covering to fit correctly. You want to wash your hands before putting it on. It should fit pretty securely and snugly. You don't want air getting around your face. You don't want to wear it hanging down under your chin, on top of your head. I see a lot of variants of how people wear their masks. It's really meant to cover your nose and your mouth, which are two areas where the virus would enter. So eyes, nose, mouth are where it enters us. So those are the places you want covered. This is just my my humor here for the day. That's Van Gogh. Sorry. But please, we've worked so hard together to get where we're at, and I just don't want to lose grounds. It's like I feel like we're winning this, but if we do some of the wrong things, some of the pictures I saw over the 4th of July weekend, especially at some of the Missouri and some of the parks, it's like it increases the potential that we slip backwards. And, I think we've worked so hard to get here, and we're starting a recovery in businesses. We just don't want to go backwards. We don't want to have a bunch of people sick after we've made all these sacrifices. And I appreciate all your time and letting me lecture everybody about masks. Again, any questions?
A couple key indicators, the ICU and intubated, those particular percentages seem to be good
They
indicators at this point in time, looking at the entire time frame of COVID-19.
They are. They're very good indicators. It was this whole effort that we did was we never were trying to get people to not get the virus, because remember, this is a novel virus. None of us have ever been exposed to it before, so we have no immunity to it. So once you get exposed, you're going to get the virus. 86% of the people do quite well, have very little in the form of symptomatology. If I knew who those people were, I'd say we've won the war, because we'd expose all of them and then we'd have that out of the way. We just unfortunately don't. So we watch those because we don't want to get into a situation where we don't have enough ICU beds and we don't have enough ventilators. And we kind of saw some of that going on in New York. We definitely saw that going on in Italy. So I think we've done a very good job of getting there. We had, Public Health had stood up the Duke Center in Southwest Ohio as a preparation for that catastrophe if it was going to come. We've sat it down because we feel that confident. Again, knock on wood, I hope we're not being cocky, but I think we're on the right track.
Second question, do you recommend that convenience stores and supermarkets still put down those 6 feet indicators?
I think it helps people to kind of know to space. I see more and more people, though, getting it and kind of stepping back and giving each other space. It's not harmful to pass for a brief period and be close together, but definitely when you're standing in line, that kind of ups the ante. So those markers, especially if you're standing still in line, are very helpful for people.
Any other questions or comments by council at this time? Thank you, Kay.
Thank you so much.
Our next special presentation, it is National Public Works Week, and we have our Public Works Director, James Williams, is going to be giving a PowerPoint, and I'm going to give him a proclamation after that. And our Public Works employees, Jim, are first responders
Yes,
in
sir.
their own way. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And,
Okay.
and thank you, sir, for allowing me to come up here, Mayor Mueller, tonight, and City Council and staff to talk about that. Our Public Works team, again, my name is James Williams. I'm the Public Works Director. But our Public Works team is comprised of engineers, all of our labor laborers in gas and water, streets, fleets, and sewers. COVID-19 has kind of thrown a wet blanket on this celebration because this is a really big deal for us nationally. We usually do activities and have community engagement. And last year, we did our first annual Fill a Truck food drive. And we generated, with the gracious donations from our citizens and businesses, 2.7 tons of food that we donated and delivered to Serve City Pantry, located on 622 East Avenue. So our goal this year was to break that. But we didn't have that opportunity due to the COVID-19 situation. So bear with me as I kind of share with you what we're celebrating. This is the 60th annual National Public Work Week, sponsored by the American Public Work Association and the Canadian Public Work Association. The purpose is to pay tribute to our public works professionals, our engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize substantial contributions they make to protect our national health, safety, and quality of life. And it's one of the things that I talk to the departments about is we are basically that we bring civilization to our existence. Without lights, without gas, and without water, without sanitary, we wouldn't be where we are as far as a society. So I try to get them to understand what they do on a daily basis is so important, even though it is sometimes drudgery. It's day in, day out labor. So with that said, I took some pictures to let you all see that we're still doing everything we're supposed to do, even in this condition. We are wearing masks where appropriate. As the weather gets warmer, I'm asking the guys to take the mask off and to just not let those droplets, that when they speak to one another, spray on each other. So you may see some weird things out there in the public. If you see them working next to each other, you may see them yelling off this way when the guy's right here, because in essence, I just don't want them to have that kind of spray and possibly exposure to the COVID-19. And so essentially, what you see here, like I said, is just some pictures to give you an illustration of the work that just was recently completed on various streets throughout the city. But COVID-19 is a big deal in our department. We have some guys that are young, with young families, and their wives are nurses, and they're in some cases really intrepid about what's going on. And but then we have the other spectrum. We have guys that are just brazen and don't feel like there's a threat at all. So I am adamant that each and every one of my guys follow these rules, which is the minimum 6 foot social distancing when possible, wear a mask, especially when you can't keep that 6 foot barrier. We measure body temperatures every morning at the start of the shift. We continuously wash our hands and sanitize throughout the day, our facilities and equipment, and try to keep things as sterile as possible. And if you're sick, stay at home. So far, so good. My mantra is not one case. Not one case. And I've told them that for the next year and a half, that's what our goal is, at least until we can get a vaccination deployed. But that's the goal. So with that said, sir, I know that we've generated a proclamation, but I can also answer any questions if anyone has any.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Williams at this time? Right. I'm going to read his proclamation and give it to you.
I like your mantra.
Sir, I'm going to put on my mask since we're going to be a little bit close together here. So,
Pat, you want to wear my pink one?
It's an honor to give you this proclamation on behalf of all your men and women in your department. And we're starting to reopen our council meetings with these special presentations. And when you said Public Works and the job that you've been doing, not just during the last couple of months, but year in, year out, what your men do and women do, it's amazing, and it is making us civilized. Also, the Mayor Proclamation. Whereas the Mayor, City Council, and City Administration of the City of Hamilton are honored to give recognition for the week of May 17th, 2020, in support of National Public Works Week. And whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Hamilton, Ohio. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, employees, and customer service professionals from Hamilton local government who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our city's transportation infrastructure, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children in Hamilton to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in Hamilton. And whereas the American Public Works Association has celebrated the annual National Public Works Weeks since 1960, the year 2020 marks the 60th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. Therefore, I, Pat Moore, Mayor of the City of Hamilton, Ohio, and Hamilton City Council members, do hereby designate the week of May 17th, 2020, and for this date to date as well, National Public Works Week. In the City of Hamilton, Ohio, we urge all of our people to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and Hamilton government agencies to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our health, safety, and quality of life in Hamilton. Thank you, Public Works! Exclamation point.
Thank you,
So
sir.
myself as mayor, acknowledged by all members of council. Thank you for what you do. Pass on to all of your men and women how happy we are to have them working with us, how proud we are to have them out there working and working safely.
Yes, sir, we'll do. We'll proudly display this in the lobby.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Our next special presentation is the 4th of July presentation by City Manager Joshua Smith. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just have a few slides I'd like to go through this evening. The first one, Nick, if you can go to the next slide for me, please, is simply answering the question, why? You know, July 4th has always been a celebration of our independence. It's been a celebration of our residents and businesses. But most importantly, in Hamilton, it's been a celebration of our community that always emerges stronger from setbacks. You think about the 1913 flood, you think about the different devastating fires that we've gone through in the past century, couple centuries actually, and you think about most recently COVID-19. Not having the fireworks, I think, sends a wrong message to our residents. We can do it in a very safe manner. I want to give a lot of credit, next slide please, to Director Scramisi, who has been working very hard with the fireworks vendor. The one thing that I think is the most important thing to note is we will be using much larger fireworks this year than we have in past years, which means we'll have much better elevation of those fireworks. That way people will not have to congregate at the Great Miami River like they've done in prior years. We are still evaluating 2 different locations for fireworks, one on the east side and one on the west side of Hamilton, both that also have good elevation, but we're working with the fireworks vendor to do a couple test shots so we can determine which ones will have the best visibility. The cost of doing the fireworks in 2020 will be $30,000. With minimal fundraising, we've already raised over $20,000 in funds. We just need a little bit more, a little less than $10,000 more. I've had a lot of people stop me in the past couple days asking if they can donate. HEDC, which is the Hamilton Economic Development Corporation, is taking donations. So if you want to provide a donation down at the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, which is also the home of Hamilton Economic Development Corporation, Dan Bates, who's actually outside tonight, they will provide you a gift letter so you will receive a tax deduction for your 2020 taxes. So if you want to contact Dan Bates at 513-844-1500, he can give you some additional details. So finally, we've talked about the launch locations. Director Scramisi has personally evaluated 12 different locations throughout the city with the fireworks vendor. We've narrowed it down to the last 2. Again, one is on the east side, one is on the west side. One on the east side actually has some county ownership. I had a very good conversation with Judy Boyko yesterday, the county administrator. Commissioner Don Dixon called last night and offered his support. So if that ends up being the location, that will probably be the one that we end up going with. If not, it will be on the west side. But I think the preferred location right now is on the east side, just due to visibility. But we'll know more after we do the test shots. But that is the report.
Any questions or comments for City Manager Smith?
Joshua,
Yes.
would these happen simultaneously? Same time, east side, west side?
Actually, we're just going to go with one location.
Oh, okay.
Because even
So I
with, because we're going much bigger shells, which will get the fireworks taller, we initially evaluated doing 2 separate locations,
Yeah.
but the show would have been like 8 to 10 minutes long at the longest, just due to cost. And there's one thing I did not say that I think is material for the presentation tonight. Due to some of the supply chain issues we're seeing due to COVID-19, a lot of the fireworks are sourced in either China or Mexico, and there's some issues getting those sourced right now, which is potentially driving the cost up. We'll know more the closer we get. So we decided it would just be better to go to one location so we can shoot them higher in the air, and we're hoping they'll be visible for the vast majority of Hamilton. And once the location is formally announced, both locations, in our opinion, have very good parking areas. So if you want to watch from your car, if there's areas where you can be socially distanced from other people. But we believe that both locations will allow the maximum coverage in terms of visibility, but also will allow people, if they want to go closer to the site, it provides ample parking also.
Thank you. I misunderstood when you said 2 locations.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're down
So,
to looking at 2, but we will just have one final location.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? We're looking at larger shells, higher up in the air, able to see hopefully more from neighborhoods instead of dense areas along the river and okay.
Absolutely. And some people, depending on where they live in Hamilton, we know that we will not get 100% coverage. I think we're going to get much greater coverage than we've had in the past in terms of visibility from your houses. But both locations that were selected have ample parking in and around those areas. So people, if they feel like they will not be able to see them, they will be able to go to one of those locations and watch from either their car or from a lawn chair and still keep a social distance.
We'll encourage our residents and visitors to keep that social distance.
Yes. One other thing I think is also important to note, I had a conversation with the city manager in Fairfield, and they are proceeding with their fireworks on July 3rd. And I think it's going to be great for our residents because Fairfield always has a nice fireworks display. So you'll get 2 nights in a row of, I think, some very good fireworks. I actually ran into Mayor Miller last Friday. He was having dinner at Tano's in downtown Hamilton. Makes me happy to say that, but I always like when the mayor from Fairfield comes to Hamilton. But I had a very nice conversation with him at Tano's, and I'm looking forward to their display, and I'm looking forward to our display.
Hey, Joshua?
Yes, ma'am.
Will there be areas roped off to discourage people or not allow people to come downtown, or?
I don't think we've talked about that. I'm sure there's going to be people at Brewworks and Markham Park and other areas like there are any other given night. And like with any other day, we just ask people to follow best practices.
Okay, thank you.
This is still kind of fluid in some ways as far as.
I think the most fluid thing right now is just picking the correct location.
Great.
But we will certainly, do you think we'll know in 2 weeks? So we'll come back in 2 weeks at the next council meeting. We'll provide that location and give people some time to do some planning for that event.
Great. Any other questions or comments at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
so is this dependent upon raising all the funds? You feel confident that's going to happen?
I do. Even if it doesn't, we have a budget for the Memorial Day Parade and the 4th of July Parade that we're not using this year that exceeds $10,000. I'll be honest, I've only talked to 5 individuals, I think, or 6 individuals so far. We've already raised $20,000. I feel pretty confident we'll get, actually, I think we're going to get over $30,000. But if some reason we do not, we have the budget already in place, and just due to the cancellation of the parades, we'll just use some of those funds.
Perfect, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion then at this point in time? So moved.
Second.
Okay, is that motion that the city manager's verbal report be accepted and that the recommendations be carried out? Is your motion, is that your second on that motion?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote on that motion, please.
Holman.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Nab.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted 7-0.
We now go to our fourth special presentation. It's a street levy curb and gutter assessment presentation. Mr. Logan?
Good evening, Mayor Moeller and members of council. I'll give Nick a minute to pull this up. Okay, so tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time walking through our concrete repair and resurfacing program, and then some of the recommendations that have come out of our program that have been a change as a result of the levy. So each year, the city's engineering department conducts a sidewalk and curb repair program in conjunction with street resurfacing. Along with other communities, Hamilton property owners are responsible to maintain sidewalks, curbs, drive approaches on their properties. In Ohio, state law does this under the premise that the property owner gets the most use out of those benefits. Now, our city engineering department inspectors review the sidewalks, curbs and drive approaches and marked sections that need replaced each year. If the property owner disagrees with the replacement orders, they have the option to meet with the Board of Revisions, who will re-examine the markings and make the final determination as to what needs replaced and what doesn't. So there's a dispute process if that occurs. And as a homeowner or a property owner, you have three options to replace sidewalk, curb, and gutter and drive approaches. And those three options are: you can use the contractor that the city has hired, you can hire a licensed contractor through the and use them, or you can hire a private contractor that's unlicensed, but for that option, the property owner takes full responsibility. But you do have three different options that you can pursue. And we do that so you can price compare and do a few different things. Now, we have three programs that are currently up for assessment. And so the 2017 program, the 2018, and 2019. And the 2017 program, all the work was completed in 2019, and roughly $295,000 are going to be assessed just for curb only. The 2018 program was completed in November of 2019, and about $282,000 are going to be assessed. Again, that work's all been completed. And we have the 2019 program, which just got underway, and we estimate that there'll be about $475,000 worth of curb assessments only. And then we also have High Street going on. You might have seen this, and there's roughly $15,000 of estimated assessments for that. Now, the street levy committee did not wish to have both assessments placed on property owners if the property tax were to pass, and has asked council to consider suspending curb and gutter assessments for the duration of the levy. And that is new legislation today on our agenda. It's number 15. In addition, our staff recommended to determine a cutoff for when to assess and when not to assess curb based on their recommendation. And we recommend, or staff recommends, that anything that has currently been completed gets assessed as originally planned, and anything that is currently underway and then moving forward with the street levy, we rescind the curb assessments. So that would be for the 2019 program only. A little bit complex, so feel free to interrupt me. There's a lot that goes with this. Now, our annual resurfacing program, there's been a lot that's changed over the past year. We've had a pre-levy license plate tax, Ohio gasoline, or we've had a license plate tax change, an Ohio gasoline tax increase, and now a levy pass. So before all those things went through, sort of the pre-state to this was we were investing about $1.5 million into our roads, and that would resurface roughly 9 lane miles. Now, after the levy passed, after the Ohio gasoline tax increase, we estimate that we'll invest about $6.1 million and do roughly 35 lane miles. So a substantial increase to improve the condition of our streets as we go forward for the next 10 years. And that's an annual investment. Now, the Ohio gasoline tax has been subject to some COVID-19 exposure. And by that, I mean, we've seen a lot less people traveling, and so the gasoline tax is not as significant as it once was estimated to be. So $1.2 million annually was its original estimate. We expect it to be a little bit less this year and then rebound later. But that is a consumption tax, and if people stop traveling, the tax basically decreases. Also, I want to point out one other thing, that the levy that was passed was a 3.9 mil property tax levy. The levy committee made a very strategic change to drop that from 4.9 to 3.9 when the state of Ohio decided to increase the gas tax. So they've done a few different things along the way, I think very smart and very strategically. And also, it was their recommendation, again, to not assess for curb going forward in conjunction with the levy. Now, in the 2019 concrete and repair program, again, these are roads we're constructing in 2020. This should look semi-familiar. This was presented in Finance Committee back in November of 19. There's been a few small changes. 2 roads have been removed just due to budget constraints. Our bids came in a little bit higher than we anticipated. And then Tylersville Road, you'll see, has been added to the list and was on in November as well. But because of the price increase, we're monitoring the Ohio gas tax, and if that comes in substantially, even just a little bit lower than we're projecting originally, we'll still plan to pave that road. But it's being evaluated, and we'll make that determination in about a month or so. Now, there's 5 factors that have traditionally influenced how engineering has chosen to resurface a street. So the overall condition of the street, or the PCI score you often hear it called, our traffic volumes, availability of funds from other sources such as ODOT, our underground utility projects that are natural gas, water, wastewater, those things, and then also proximity to other planned projects. Now, after the street levy passed, one of the committee's goals was to really get what they called the 6th factor involved, and that's residential feedback. And so at a future meeting, we'll have another presentation on how we plan to solicit residential feedback and build that into the traditional process. It's a commitment that the levy made, and we've got a lot of work to figure out how exactly that's going to work, but we will do a consolidated presentation at a future council meeting to really show that. And so again, there's 2 items of legislation on the agenda today for your consideration. And one is to, I'm gonna find the right slide. I believe it's back one more. There we go. The first is to allocate tax levy funds to defray the curb of cost and gutter for basically the period or the duration of the tax levy. And then the second one is to rescind curb assessments for the 2019 concrete repair and resurfacing program, and that's the work that's in progress. And I would welcome any questions.
That's 15 and 16 on our agenda, I believe.
Yes, sir.
So there'll be 4 times more lane miles being repaired or improved as a result of the levy, gas tax, and the increased gas taxes.
Correct.
I know the street levy committee recommended that we drop the assessment on the curbs and gutters. And that was a committee of great integrity. I truly believe what they said is what we're going to do. What they said, what they represent means a lot to us on council. I know, speaking for myself, especially to me. That 6th factor is very interesting. I would hope that we come up with a plan that you can't make a public meeting if we do return to public meetings, that email, text, hard copy letter, every way you can get your opinion to be received. We'll use every way we can get those opinions of what streets to be able to be received. Is that pretty accurate?
Absolutely. I'd like to think of it as like a sports analogy. They're the 12th man, right? And we all know that the 12th man in a game has the ability to change the momentum of how things are moving. And so our residents of 17 Strong will have the option to change the momentum of how streets are being paved. And so I think that's sort of the analogy, the 6th man to the 12th man, but that's really how I think of it.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the very thorough presentation, Mr. Miller.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jim.
Next on our agenda is the audience of citizens. And as we reopen everything, we are still being cautious. Those who wish to speak regarding a specific agenda item will be permitted to have their comments stated in person. However, if citizens do wish to ask questions or comments about matters that are non-agenda related, they have the opportunity to contact our city clerk by email. And if they were submitted far enough in advance, we can get an answer for them And we actually do have, I believe, at least two questions tonight from one individual. Is that correct, Mr. City Clerk?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So, and I believe they're very, very concise in their comments. They do have a question, but that was a way of getting public input without having any kind of safety issues. So we've been following along that for the last several meetings. So, Mr. Karukas, we have the one email. Did anybody sign any kind of book out there to discuss anything during this agenda?
No, no one has signed the book to speak outside. So we just have the one email question tonight.
Let's go with that one then.
Okay. Owing to citizens from Mike Tincher, 809 North 2nd Street, Hamilton, Ohio, 45011. Mr. Tincher writes, I'd like to ask City Council 2 questions. Why wasn't Speedy Drive-Thru on Black Street Bridge notified or told that the bridge was being closed for road work for Spooky Nook? Would also like to know when they plan on reopening the bridge. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your reply. We responded to Mr. Tincher as going out today, basically stating first that we will read his question into the record here tonight on the May 27th City Council meeting, and the City Administration writes, Dear Mr. Tincher, Black Street Bridge is currently open for vehicle traffic and will remain so for the immediate future. The only restriction placed on Black Street Bridge at this time is that motorists are unable to turn left onto North B Street if you head south when heading west across Black Street Bridge. This area of North B Street is closed for the construction of Spooky Nook at Champion Mill. There will be a temporary closure of Black Street Bridge in the future as construction progresses at Champion Mill. The temporary closure date of Black Street Bridge has not yet been determined. The city intends on keeping Black Street Bridge open during this construction for as long as possible. When that temporary closure date has been decided, the Speedy Drive-Thru and other businesses in that area will be given sufficient notice of the closure. It is also city policy to issue press releases to the local media regarding any substantial road closure to help spread this message to as many residents as possible. Respectively, the City of Hamilton. Do you have anything you wish to add, Mr. Mayor?
I have nothing else to add. I think our city professionals responded very accurately, appropriately, with the right amount of explanation to those 2 questions. And just for the record, this agenda has been on our website, available to be read since probably Friday. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so they've had an opportunity to send emails. That's the only one I guess you've gotten in the most recent past. So that takes care of our citizens, unless there's anybody still out there who wants to say anything.
No, that's
Great.
everybody.
We now go to the consent agenda. That includes approval of minutes, all staff reports, receive and file council information, caucus reports, information report on our April 2020 monthly financial report, and information report on our 2020 April monthly investment report. We normally have a committee of the whole, which allows discussion about the caucus agenda items, unless anybody on City Council otherwise wants to hear an explanation of any of these caucus agenda items. We will not have them necessarily explained to you at this time. They were actually found staff reports in our caucus agenda which explained all these caucus agenda items. Mr. City Clerk, if you could read them into the record just so we have that, and so those folks who are watching TV Hamilton know some of the things that are going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes here in the city of Hamilton.
The caucus reports.
Just read the titles if you would, sir.
Sure. Caucus agenda, May 27th, 2020. Recommendation relative to the filing of an application to the Council of the City of Hamilton, Ohio for the expansion of Hamilton's designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, and the amendment of the regulations associated with the DORA. City of Hamilton applicants. Number 2, recommendation relative to the disposition of land bank property at 123 and 127 Pershing Avenue, Hamilton, Ohio, 45011. It is the map of the proposed new DORA. You will have a presentation at your next City Council meeting and public hearing regarding this application. And those are the properties for disposition at the land bank. 3, recommendation relative to disposition of land bank property at 412 Hudson, Hamilton, Ohio, 45011. Recommendation relative to the disposition of land bank property at 610 South 4th Street, Hamilton, Ohio, 45011. Recommendation relative to disposition of land bank property at 610 South 4th Street, Hamilton, Ohio 45011. Recommendation relative to the disposition of land bank property at 904 Northeast Street, Hamilton, Ohio 45013. Recommendation relative to the disposition of land bank property at 2141 Benninghoffen Avenue, Hamilton, Ohio 45015. This is just maps of all the properties I just listed going from the land bank as side lots. Number 7, recommendation relative to a request for a final plat approval for Hickory Woods Block D subdivision located at 1 East Permian Drive, situated in the First Ward, South Side, Hamilton, Ohio. David P. Long of Ullum Cliff Industries, LLC, applicants. Number 8, recommendation relative to the adding position of classification of system engineers within the Department of Infrastructure. And that is the map regarding item number 7.
And the staff reports are accessible online for the citizens to read. Is that correct, Mr. City Clerk?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. All caucus reports, staff reports, and legislation informational reports are currently on the city website and have been since Friday evening.
Great. I'll accept the motion that council receive the reports of the consent agenda and concur in their recommendations.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilmember Fear, seconded by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. We now go into the public hearing section of the agenda. I'll accept the motion that the regular meeting be recessed and the public hearings take place.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Nab, second by Vice Mayor Pullman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. It is 6:47. We now go to agenda item number 5, public hearing involving some zoning amendments.
Public hearing regarding the amendments to certain sections of zoning ordinance number 7503, section 1121.00 B-2 Community Business District, section 1122.00 B-3 Central Business District, section 1123.00 I-1 Limited Industrial District, and section 1124.00 I-2 Industrial District. City of Hamilton applicant.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to be heard at this public hearing involving B2, B3, I1, and I2 various district sections of our zoning ordinance? No one actually is in the audience. Did anybody sign the book?
No one has signed the book for any of the public hearings tonight.
Okay. Anyone on council have a comment they wish to make at this public hearing at this time? Or make a motion involving this public hearing at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Fear.
I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fear, second by Councilmember Brown. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. First public hearing is closed at 6:48. We now go to the second public hearing, agenda item number 6.
Public hearing regarding amendments to certain sections of zoning ordinance number 7503, section 1111.00 commercial design standards, section 1110.00 residential design standards, section 1130.00 special provisions of the zoning ordinance. City of Hamilton applicant.
Okay. To the record, anyone in the audience is to be heard at this public hearing involving the commercial design standards, residential design standards, and special provisions. And as you said, no one signed the book, Mr. City Clerk?
No one has signed the book to speak for this hearing.
Okay. Anyone on council wish to be heard at this public hearing or wish to make a motion at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Vaughn?
I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Vaughn, second by Councilmember Ryan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed at 6:50. We now go into agenda item number 7, the third public hearing, also involving zoning ordinance.
A public hearing regarding amendments to certain sections of zoning ordinance number 7503 relative to medical clinics, inpatient rehabilitation facilities, and supportive housing. City of Hamilton applicant.
Anyone in the audience who may have walked up in from outside wish to make a comment about this public hearing involving zoning sections involving medical clinics, inpatient rehabilitation facilities, and supportive housing? No one signed the book as well, correct?
No one has signed the book to speak for this hearing.
Anyone on council wish to make a comment at this time or wish to make a motion at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Pullman?
I'd like to make a motion that the public hearing be closed. Second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Pullman, second by Councilmember Brown. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is carried. It is 6:51, and that public hearing is closed. I'll accept the motion that the regular meeting be reconvened.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Nab, seconded by Councilmember Ryan. Roll call vote to reconvene into the regular meeting.
Pullman,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Nab,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Moeller.
Yes.
Motion adopted 7-0.
6:51, we now go back into the regular meeting. We now go to council actions pertaining to legislative items, and I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Nab.
I move that a note be made upon the minutes that each member of council is furnished a printed copy of each item of legislation